everyone. Good evening. My name is Susan Spry, and I work here at the college. I'm Vice President of Workforce and Community Development here. And I just wanted to bring you greetings on behalf of our President, Tom Leary. Tom does double duty. He's the president of the college, and he's teaching a history class tonight. So I had the honor of doing the welcome this evening. I wanted to, first of all, thank the League of Women Voters for considering Luzerne County Community College as the venue for this forum. We really appreciate that. And thank you to all the candidates for taking the time this evening to join us. I'm going to turn it over to Chris McLaughlin, Attorney Chris McLaughlin, who's going to talk about the setup for tonight. Thank you.
Thanks. So we really do appreciate the college's support for our activities. Before we get started, the microphone is there, and we need to click them on. And please, this is being recorded for Service Electric, so please make sure you talk right into the microphone, okay? And they actually pull out. Two switches, all right. We'll get the technical stuff out of the way.
It's on, I think.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're very happy that the candidates can come and share their comments with us. Let me just give you a little bit of information about how the forum is going to run. My name is Chris McLaughlin. I'm on the board of the League of Women Voters. We are here this evening to hear from our controller candidates, who are the two women sitting here, and the council candidates, who are the rest of the folks. I would again thank the candidates for all coming, and thanks LCC for having us here this evening. The forum tonight is going to be in two parts. The first part, you'll hear from the candidates with their prepared comments, and the second half, or the second hour, the candidates will be out in the hallway there, and you're able to speak to them specifically about any issues that you're interested in. I would like to say that the League is nonpartisan, and we've asked all the candidates to please not use anything from this forum in any partisan campaigning. We like to make sure everybody knows that we're nonpartisan. And I would also ask that you hold your applause until the end of the event. So what we're going to do is we're starting with the candidates. Each of them will take a minute to introduce themselves, and then we'll have another comment at the end. So we'll start with the two controller candidates. As I mentioned, the first is Carolee Medico-Olenjinsky.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting us here and giving us this opportunity. My prepared speech is sitting at home, and I have something else, but you know, maybe that's better, because last night I happened to turn on TV and I caught the tail end of the budget. And I have prepared 7 successful budgets. I've always come under budget. Walter's here, and he could verify for that. And I've always tried to cut my budget by $100,000 or whatever. I tried very hard to work to come under budget and to cut a budget for the next year. I always tried to work to conserve. What I heard last night was a ridiculous budget. And it proves that the people, some of the people that are sitting there, have absolutely no knowledge as to how government works. Some of the services that will be cut out are mandated by law, and they cannot be eliminated. The pathonetary fees, I heard someone kind of suggest that maybe they could be raised. You can't. That is regulated by law, and there's a guideline by it. You could only do it every so many years. There's a scale as to how high you could raise them, and that has to be done by court order.
Carolee, excuse me, I hate to interrupt you. This first part, we'd ask you just to introduce yourself, and this is only supposed to be a minute long. Okay.
Did I go over a minute? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah,
oh,
so,
okay, well, anyway.
Okay, so you'll have the opportunity to address some of those issues in the second 2 minutes that you'll have, okay?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, but anyway, here I am. You know who I am, and I'll pass this on to my opponent, Michelle Bednar.
The next we'll hear from Michelle Bednar.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having this tonight. I'm a lifelong resident of Luzerne County. I grew up in Plymouth and currently live in Lily Lake at Cunningham Township with my husband of 18 years and we have a 10-year-old son named Kyler. I graduated from Wyoming Valley West and Luzerne County Community College. I studied the corporate trust operations at the University of North Carolina and studied accounting at Penn State. I have 25 years of solid experience in finance and management within the private public sectors. As many of you may know, I'm elected tax collector for Cunningham Township since 2009, where I have proudly served the residents and taxpayers, and currently a branch office manager of an investment securities firm. Throughout my career in financial services, I have worked with internal, external auditors, created annual and monthly reports, reviewed payments on insurance, stocks, bonds, deposits, and withdrawals, while having reconciled accounts and contracts. With my experience in finance and auditing, I will ensure that taxpayer dollars are spent wisely and efficiently within the county government with no undue influence until other elected officials, department heads, or any special interest.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from the county council candidates. It's hard to say. And I would let you know that there are folks out there keeping time for you, so if you can keep an eye on that, we would appreciate it. Next, we'll hear from Michael Giamber.
All right, thank you all for coming. My name is Mike Jamber. I was born and raised in Pittston, graduated from St. John's the Evangelist High School, and later on got my bachelor's degree in business management, National Louis University. I worked for the Navy for 23 years, managing operations at several naval installations, including National Naval Medical Center, Naval Surface Welfare Center in Maryland, Naval Security Station, Naval Observatory, Navy Yard, Tow Mechanics. I was responsible for the presidential Me Too Suite at the National Naval Medical Center during the Reagan administration and was presented the Distinguished Meritorious Civilian Service Award. In addition, I always worked for the Naval Facilities Engineering Command in Washington, D.C., conducting efficiency reviews, teaching contract management classes, and also engineering estimating classes. Before retiring, my last 7 years were spent at the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. as the Deputy Chief of Operations and Facilities. I was also a member of the Home Rule Transition Committee, Personnel, Administrative, and Liaison Subcommittees, where I helped write 2 of the Home Rule Administrative Codes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Renee Sharufli-Tafra.
Good evening, and thank you, Women's League voters, for inviting us here tonight, and thank you for all coming. My name is Renee Sharufli-Tafra, and I am a 1972 graduate of Central Catholic High School. My late husband and I owned and managed a successful business in Wilkes-Barre while raising 4 children, which have given me 7 grandchildren. After my children were grown, I graduated from the University of Marywood with a BS in Nutrition and Dietetics. Since graduating, I managed a spa and now work for Irvine Home and Health Hospice as a nutrition counselor. Since 2009, as a concerned citizen, observer, and participant in Home Rule, I have immersed myself in this new form of government, being with the Government Study Commission, where my sister Veronica was an author of the charter, followed through with the Transition Committee, and 2 years into this new government. I am intimately familiar with the provisions and the intent of the charter. I have been vocal about issues impacting this new form of government. Okay.
Thank you very much. The end. Next, we'll hear from Paul DeFabo.
You just speak? Oh, okay, you can hear me. My name's Paul DeFabo. I'm a lifelong resident of Wilkes-Barre. I think I'm the only candidate from Wilkes-Barre running presently. My background, I graduated from St. Mary's High School. I attended some King's College and some other odds and ends jobs, but primarily I'm a businessman. I owned and operated franchises of Mr. Donut. Those who remember Mr. Donut, a Curry Donut and a Popeye Chicken on South Main Street in Wilkes-Barre. I did that for about 20 years, okay? So presently I'm a realtor for Classic Properties in Kingston. I served on the board of directors of Luzerne County Transit Authority for about 5 years. I have two sons, Paul and Jeff, and 2 grandsons, my grandsons, Ryan and Samantha. Okay. So that's my background, and anything that I got to stop. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Richard Heffron.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Rich Heffron, nicknamed Kick, and that goes back a long way, and it's a long story, so I won't get into that. But I'm a lifelong resident of Luzerne County. I've been married for 40 years, have 4 children and 10 grandchildren, and that's a good thing. I was also a member of the Study Commission, which wrote the charter, and the Transition Committee, which was put together for a smooth transition from one form of government to the other. I was in the private sector, had businesses, just sold my last business just recently, so I'm out of the private sector business. And I was in excuse me. I served with the Workforce Development Board in Luzerne County, which dealt with federal and state grants to provide training and employment for people who were out of work. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Sue Rossi.
Good evening, everybody, and thank the League of Women Voters for inviting us and for all of you for coming out. I also am a lifelong resident of Luzerne County. I was born and raised in Hazle Township and currently reside in Butler Township, where I did serve 14 years as the Butler Township tax collector. And I have my own small business that I started, Sue's Notary. I've been doing that for 25 years. I currently also, after giving up tax collector, I pursued a property and casualty license, and I do some home and auto insurance along with my notary business. I'm married to my husband for 35 years. I have 2 children and 3 grandchildren. And I am just basically a hardworking, small business, tax-paying person, like all the rest of most of the people that are here. I have some background in business. I had some classes in that and in income tax preparation and different things that relating to business and budget. And thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Jean Kelleher.
Thanks to all involved who organized this event. I'm not a lifelong resident of the area. I was born in another country called New Jersey. And I've lived here for 65 years. I taught 35 years mathematics at Wyoming Valley West, right, Jim? So I've been married 38 years. Best decision I ever made was my wife, and the 3 best gifts I've ever been given are my children. We have 3 children, 3 grandchildren, and some more on the way. I started a business after I retired, financial services, and I have securities licenses. It's been a pleasure to, not always pleasant, but a pleasure to be part of the first county council. There's a lot of work to do, and I look forward to the opportunity to serve more. Bye.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Harry Haas.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name's Harry Haas. I live in Kingston Borough with my wife, Kristen, and my one gift, not 3 yet, but gift Kenzie. She is 7.5 months old. And you know, I grew up in Orange, out in Franklin Township, which is in the north side of the county in a very rural area. I went away to college at George Washington University in D.C. After serving as an exchange student with the Rotary for a year in Spain. I got my degree in education in Washington. I stuck around in D.C. for a few more years and decided to come back to the best place in America, and that's Luzerne County. That's Wilkes-Barre in Luzerne County. And I have a lot of pride in our home. There's a lot of good things despite all the nonsense that we see in politics with the crime rate coming around here. This is still the best place. I'm excited to fight for it. I ask for your support again going forward on the Luzerne County Council. And I want to make Luzerne the best place it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Eileen Sorokas.
Can you hear me? Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Eileen Pibbitz-Sorokas of Wilkes-Barre, candidate for Luzerne County Council. Born and raised in the Wilkes-Barre area, graduated from Wilkes-Barre Township High School and Luzerne County Community College. Also attended the United Way Union Counseling Program and attended night classes at King's College to advance my degree. I am retired from the ILGWU. I stay active in various charitable organizations, being a member of the Uber Breaker Society, Ashley, president of the AMVETS Lady Auxiliary 189, Greater Pittston area, and a member of the Rose Tucker Senior Citizen Center in Nanticoke. I am running for Luzerne County Council as a concerned citizen and taxpayer to be a voice for all the residents of Luzerne County, also to lead Luzerne County proactively forward for now and for future generations. Accordingly, I will strive for an honest, responsive, and dependable government, one that will understand and serve the needs of the public, which includes holding the line on taxes and watching how our tax dollars are being spent. Furthermore, I will be accountable only to the residents of Luzerne County. I would like to thank everyone for coming tonight and the League of Women Voters, and please, I ask for your vote.
Thank you. Kathy Dobish.
My name is Kathy Dobash. I was born and raised in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. I'm currently employed at a Fortune 500 company. I've represented citizen concerns, especially our senior population, during public comment at county council meetings. I fought for transparency, and through my efforts, we now have county meetings on audio and county emails on the county website. I want to thank the Women League of Voters, and I do respect their efforts for educating the public on the candidates. And I want to say that I want to honor my father, who has passed, and my mother. My father was a World War II veteran. He taught me a strong work ethic. And I want to represent, based on last night's public hearing on the county budget, that to promote senior commentary, it was stifled. That's what I observed. And the public should be allowed to speak freely. And I'll speak more on that later.
Thank you. Linda McCluskey Hauk.
Hello, everyone. I'm a lifelong resident of Luzerne County, as were my parents before me. I was born and raised in Luzerne. I live in Kingston now and have for the last 10 years. I'm a graduate of Wyoming Valley West High School, and I went away to college. I went to Ithaca College in upstate New York. My husband went to Berklee College of Music in Boston, and we both came back. We graduated from high school together. And we both came back because we think Luzerne County is a great place. We raised 4 children in this area, 2 of them still live here, and we have 3 grandchildren. I'm a teacher at Wyoming Valley West. I have 2 master's degrees, and I've also been the director of liturgy and music at Holy Family Parish in Luzerne since the age of 13. I've been working for a long time. I've also been very active in community arts activities. I ran for council originally because I'm not a politician, and I'm still not a politician, but I've been trying for 2 years to be a very good public servant. As the vice chair of the First County Council and the chair of the ABC committee, I've implemented transparent policies and procedures for appointments to the ABCs and tried to develop the rational kinds of policies and procedures that will advance our government.
Thank you. Finally, we'll hear from Rick Williams.
I'd like to thank the League and Service Electric and all of you for coming tonight. I'm an architect. I've been practicing architecture in Wilkes-Barre since the late 70s, first with Bolin and Powell, that is now Bolin, Sywinski, Jackson. In the early 80s, I formed my own firm that has evolved into Williams Kinsman Lewis Architecture. Prior to the change of the economy in 2008, there were 12 people who worked there, and it has been a practice that has evolved from difficult renovation projects to large institutional projects, and those kinds of skills and problem-solving techniques that apply to architecture I've found to be appropriate for government. My wife and I have 2 wonderful children who are often easy to love and have enjoyed growing up in Wyoming Valley and in Luzerne County. Thank you.
Thank you. The second half of our sit-down portion of our forum this evening, we're going to ask each of the candidates, and you'll each have 2 minutes to respond to this, to tell us what they think are the most important issues facing the county in the next few years and how they think they are uniquely qualified to handle those issues. And we'd ask you to be as specific as possible. Thank you, and we'll start with Carolee Medico-Olenjinsky, please.
I think I got a head start on that one, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows who I am and where I'm from and my credentials. As I said, I think the most important thing right now is the budget. I think that the budget that, as it's proposed, is ridiculous, and it could throw the county into a real train wreck. There are certain services that will be compromised, and certain things by law are mandated, and I believe that there are also electives, there's departments that could be cut and areas that could be cut that aren't. And I'm also concerned about the way the direction is going, the way the county manager has been more dictating than leading, and that concerns me. And one of the issues was spoken about last night. He was hired a consultant for $8,000 to review the research of a $16 million prison. Well, right now we're struggling. We're laying people off. We have issues that we have to deal with like immediately, and we don't know how we're going to pay our bills, and he's looking to build a new prison. And I feel that he overstepped his authority by doing that. I feel that that is within the powers of the controller to research and find and make recommendations, and I'm concerned. I'm concerned that the office of the controller is being dismantled. It's being put in a position where it won't have powers, and then we are really in trouble. We will be in worse trouble than we were when we lived through Kids for Cash. We lived through Little Red Wagon. That was the LRW scheme where I uncovered $1 million. And that committee is down the wrong path right now, and that is it. I have to stop. But if you want more, vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from the second of our two controller candidates, Michelle Bednar.
Thank you. Okay, to me, the most important issue in Luzerne County Controller's race is restoring the taxpayers' confidence in the office. As your next county controller, I intend to contribute to our new government as we build better Luzerne County for ourselves, our families, our children, our grandchildren. I guarantee that the office will be transparent and open. Taxpayers should always have a full-time controller whose top priority is to ensure that the staff is always working in tandem to address their needs. Every program we will audit accordingly to make sure that every account is guarded safely with no possibility of mismanagement, overspending, or corruption. As working with auditors in the public and private sectors for more than 25 years, I know which red flags to look for and how to correct small problems before escalating into larger ones. Once I see a problem with an account or audit, I will notify the proper division manager and department head so everyone is on notice. I will work with elected officials, bureau chiefs, and program managers and always communicate all issues thoroughly before taking action when necessary. This will guarantee that all of us are working together in order to protect public funds, get the most value of programs and services while ensuring honesty and openness. Audits are not complete just because the report is completed. The report should have recommended changes where necessary, and as a controller, I will ensure these are followed up on. The most important part of auditing is after the fact, reviews of books. I will work proactively to find problem areas. What I will do is audit the process to make sure that offices are operating as efficiently as possible. Audit the internal controls of each group. This will allow me to identify problems before they result into another black eye for the county. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those are our two controller candidates, folks, so those are the folks you'll have an opportunity to vote for in the upcoming election. Now we'll hear from our county council candidates. The first is Mr. Giamber.
Thank you. I'm going to start off with a short story, so please bear with me. Major company I invested in lost 43% of its market value the last couple of years because the CEO is not managing the company properly. The CEO is not proactive in addressing overspending issues. He was borrowing money like a drunken sailor, driving the company deeper in the hole while revenues remain flat. The board of directors finally found the intestinal fortitude to force the founder and CEO to resign and hire a new no-nonsense, aggressive, and experienced CEO. Since then, the stock has risen 50%. The company is now profitable, paying their bills without borrowing money. The point I'm making is not about a stock, but it's about the difference leadership can make in a company or a government's bottom line and the impact it has on the shareholders, meaning you, the taxpayers. I believe our number one problem is leadership. If we do not improve the quality of leadership running this county, we are doomed to higher taxes and greater deficits in the future. Blaming the past makes for interesting conversation, but does not solve the problem. The prior government blame game continues, but I ask you, what has this administration done to control spending, reduce debt, and bring in additional revenues? 8% tax increase, read about in the paper, 150 layoffs, $5 million monetization loan, 18 million tax anticipation loan. This is this year right now I'm talking about, folks. And the debt service went from 25 million this year, and it's going to 27 million next year. And to top it off, we spent $2 million of borrowed funds on a half-baked financial management system that is supposed to be able to count our money better, money we don't have. I believe poor leadership is the root cause of this organization's failure.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Cherufli Tafara.
I believe the most important issue facing our government is accountability, or I should say the lack of. I am sure for those who have children or in business understand the importance of accountability for your actions. Do what you say and say what you mean. However, for some reason, this administration has a very difficult time understanding that basic concept. As an example, the current budget ignores the requirement to have a message or narrative explaining significant changes in the budget. 2014 layoff numbers in 2 local papers change nearly every day. We've not seen the manager's layoff proposal in writing identifying the people affected. The 2014 budget is not balanced, meaning the revenues do not match expenses as required by law. This is another example of the use of the charter's provisions and codes. We have documented well over 25 charter code violations. Another issue, I believe, is individual accountability. Accountability for telling the truth. We have a saying, if you don't like what the administration is telling you, just wait a week, it will change. Virtually nothing said can be taken to the bank. On April 15, 4 months after the close of the fiscal year, Brian Sweets, at that time he was acting budget and finance director, told council they were overspent the budget of 2012 by $2.3 million. On July 4th, Parenti and Beard's preliminary fiscal audit supported Sweets' finding, but said the county overspent by $4.4 million, not $2.3 as Sweets said. The annual financial audit for 2012 was due June 30th, and it's still incomplete. I also believe this administration lacks an effective and enforceable accountability mechanism. The Ethics Commission is moot, the controller has been neutered, and the council majority sees everything through rose-colored glasses. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeFabo?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight and in this beautiful facility at LCC. I think the biggest problem, and I've addressed this before, and I'm on record as saying it, is the debt rating. And I'm against any tax increase whatsoever, and I'm against these layoffs, these massive layoffs, and I would suggest that maybe the county manager may look at his paycheck and some of the other hired ones, and maybe they can reduce theirs by 10, 15%. Maybe in that way we can also maybe save a job or two there. So he should address that also. But the debt rating is what's killing this county. I can tell you that for a fact. It's costing us $60,000 to $70,000 per day on a debt of $400 million, and that's not going to get any lower unless it's addressed. But I got to admit, I did read where they're actually going to try to reduce this debt rating next year. They're going to try to get it done. And if we can do that and reduce this by 1 or 2%, we can save millions of dollars. And that money could be used to do some of the things that want to get done that we can't presently do now. I know they're talking about building a new prison. I'm on record also as saying that I can't see how we can even really do anything about that presently. But that's my opinion on the debt rating. We have other problems also that we could address. We should have a comprehensive review of all the county programs to see where we can reduce or eliminate whatever is necessary. We should streamline the Luzerne County Council meetings. That doesn't sound very, very important, but when you see the marathon meetings they're having, 3, 4, maybe sometimes 5 hours, what people do, they avoid going to these council meetings. But the one thing I will say, though, before my time is up, I don't promise to have all the answers. I don't promise to have all the solutions. But I'll promise you this thing. I'll do the best that I possibly can, and I just hope that's the best I can do. Thank you much.
Thank you. Mr. Heffron?
Good evening again. It's pretty tough to figure out the biggest problem Luzerne County to talk about because we have so many. But I'm going to talk about what most people are going to talk about tonight, and that's money. We've all seen the headlines, the 8% tax increase, layoffs. Very tough situation for Luzerne County, and this was passed on to us from the former government, but still we're accountable for it, and we can't make excuses for it. It's there. We have to deal with it. We have to deal with it now. And the biggest thing we can do is to bring money into Luzerne County. I haven't seen that done on council or by the manager, any suggestions whatsoever. For instance, during a one-year period in Luzerne County over the last 2 years, this is only 12 months, Luzerne County brought in $401 million in new assessments. That's not bad. You know, and that would account for about $2.5 million in the Luzerne County coffers. But unfortunately, there were $389 million of that was abated, meaning reduced taxes for people who appealed their taxes. Now, that's, if you figure it out, divide one into the other, comes out to about 95% of the money that came in Luzerne County went out again in a one-year period. 95%. Talking to other people from counties who have experience in this, they said 50% is a very high rate. So there's something going on here. There's something wrong, and the council and the manager have to address this. I have not seen the reassessment board come up in front of the council and explain this. I'm not even sure if council realizes this, but they have to. There's no way we're going to get through this unless we bring money into Luzerne County. Expenses go up every year, so the only way to not raise taxes or to lay off people is to raise money, and we have to do it. Thank you very much again for having me, and I appreciate your consideration November 5th.
Thank you. Ms. Rossi?
Mostly, everyone is concerned about the taxes. And being a tax collector, as I served for 14 years, I saw it up close and personal. I saw the people who were struggling, the people who would come in and say, waving their check at me and said, I didn't buy myself anything all year so I could afford to stay in my house. That, to me, is very sad. I, too, seen what I called the cozy zones, the KOZ zones in this county, where they gave away free taxes. Now, from what I understand, they were supposed to firstly initiate it to bring in new business, a new business, not one that was already here, and would pay a higher wage in exchange for this free tax ride to help bring jobs to the area. I didn't see any new jobs come in. I saw bakeries and real estate companies, apartment buildings. I don't even know who they employ, let alone bring in big jobs for people and give them tax breaks. For years and years they've done this. Had we brought these new businesses in and gave these tax breaks, at least to the people who were bringing in better paying jobs, it certainly would have been well worth it in the end. When we have our young kids today who says to me, I can't get a job, I can only work at a temp agency, and they won't even hire me because they don't want to pay me any benefits or wages. We can't keep going this way because our senior population is getting older and they're struggling to pay it. And now we're not going to have any younger kids here working and paying into this tax base, putting into the community so we can go forward and we can strive instead of not being further and further in debt. We spend 20 years and 25 years raising fine young tax-paying citizens that we've all raised in this county, and we throw them away. And the areas who have invested zero are reaping all the benefits from all the work that we did. I think that we need to look at what we're doing, trying to keep the jobs here and keep our kids here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kelleher?
Thank you. I agree with Kick. If you buy a new home, the three key words are location, location, location. If you look at the problem that the county faces, it's the debt, the debt, the debt. We pay $27 million a year beginning next year. And if we pay that without any borrowing, that will be paid off in 2027. To pay for the prison and the debt costs the taxpayers $1.1 million per week. So we can talk about many ideas, but somehow we have to look at two things, I think. We can't keep hitting the property owners, especially the senior citizens, and I can relate to that because in 2 months I'll be 70. I think there has to be another approach. Taxpayers came to our meetings in 2012 and suggested we look into what I call an entertainment tax or a sales tax. And studies have shown that that would generate about $15 million, and in the county, 55% would go to the county and the 45% left over would go to the municipalities. I think that's something we should try to get. It wasn't approached much this year because of the HS 76 and House and Senate Bill 76. That has fallen by the wayside. I think we should try to get that, and all money that's received from that tax should be dedicated to paying the debt, nothing else. It should have a sunset provision, and the sunset provision says the only way that it will be extended as a tax is by public referendum, not by elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Haas?
Yeah, I'm just going to stand up because I just see this, this election just being a referendum on this government. I see the number one issue really just being decency, and decency on many fronts. If you've ever seen some toddlers build things with blocks, you have some that stack the blocks very calmly and carefully and tilts to the side and back and forth. And one comes over, and with one swipe knocks them all down. It's so easy to knock down. It's so easy to tear down and throw stones. It's not so terribly easy to build incrementally and make those slight changes that over time will yield great savings for the taxpayer, for the efficiency of this government, and for just Luzerne County citizens in general. We are trying to restore decency here. We've been rife with scandals, rife with generations of political corruption in this county, and the taxpayers have had enough of it. Now, rightly so, they're angry. They're angry at all levels of government, and people are complaining at council meetings. I understand the frustration out there. I'm a taxpayer, too. What's the problem is that what Mr. Kelleher said here, that we've been left with almost $500 million of debt by prior administrations. $500 million, that's like the deficit of some state governments, and we're here just on the county level. So how do we go about reining in this government? Well, we've done a couple of things over the past couple of years. We've decided to move tax collection in-house. Rather than go out in the community and have elected tax collectors, we're looking at realizing savings by doing it in the treasurer's office, increasing accountability, making sure we have better cash flow and cash revenue on hand so we can use that. We're looking at a windfall of about $250,000 per year, $250,000. It's not a tremendous amount of money, but it's a good start. Under the charter requirements of consolidating the government, we now have division heads rather than the old school charter offices, the row offices. So now we're looking at doing more professional hiring. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen overnight. Some other revenues last night, if you watched, and I'm guessing most people here, you came out tonight to LCC, you probably tuned in last night. There are 11 people on council, many different ideas. That's what it's about. It's about giving ideas, disagreeing, agreeing, sharing ideas without being disagreeable. So we're all in this together, and if I could just say, too, there's some areas, and I think the courts we could really look at. There are partners in this democracy, as well as the prison overtime. But it's a managerial question. We'll work with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rokas?
All issues are important that affect the public. Indeed, the most important issue beside public safety I will have to deal with is the budget. Through life experience, I have gained skills to manage budgets and understand the suffering people undertake when they lose their homes to foreclosures due to taxation or loss of jobs from budget cuts. The hard decisions have to be made either to increase taxes or lay off people. My goal is to hold the line on taxes. With staff reduction through attrition. However, the county released an unbalanced budget. Consequently, putting fear into the public and the employees would have an 8% tax increase or 160 employees to be laid off. Also, the unions will be asked for $2.7 million concession or 57 layoffs. Furthermore, the county cannot get a credit rating for potential refinancing of their bond issue unless they prove they have fiscal stability for at least 2 years. Also, no credit rating is causing our bond fee to increase. It appears my goals may be out of touch with the mainstream. Indeed, I will work hard to achieve my goals. Consequently, the county manager and his staff should work to reduce taxes for all the citizens of Luzerne County. The time for talking is over. We must go back to justifying all department costs. Zero-based budgeting, no more using past figures. Also, the taxation problem is statewide, but magnified with Luzerne County's high debt. Furthermore, our state legislators should be working with our county to find solutions. Indeed, there are some bills in the House and the Senate for tax relief using the state income tax and sales tax, maybe a local drink tax. However, the bills are not going anywhere. Incidentally, the gaming industry was for property tax relief. How much are we getting? We have a casino in Luzerne County, and the county gets very little, if any, benefit. We must look at other ways of taxation besides property tax. Certainly new taxation in the future to be equal for all citizens. By council working together and making it a goal, I believe the end result will be positive for all the citizens of Luzerne County. Thank you. Eileen Soroka.
Thank you. Ms. Dobash?
Tax increases hurt families and small businesses. I think the council needs to be broken up into 4 groups, and they need to look at human services, evaluate the nonprofit contracts, see what executives are reaping the benefits with $200,000 plus salaries before they re-sign contracts. I think the court system needs a serious look. The general fund is a line-by-line item that needs so much review. What was handed out last night, it's my understanding you couldn't even read it. The numbers were printed so small. The prison is a whole nother issue that needs review. I'm discouraged because a recent radio commercial by incumbent Mr. Kelleher bothers me, because I campaigned with him in 2011, and he did the opposite of what he promised. And I don't believe his commercial. I have talked to citizens in the neighborhood. They do not need the burden of a high tax. We need to find other ways to generate revenue. We need to make a strong effort, I agree, with our state legislators to get property tax relief. Promises were made with the casino, and we never saw the property relief. Last night I witnessed a senior citizen from Warrior Run intimidated by being timed and warned that she was being timed. She wasn't allowed to read her statement. Also, council member Mr. Bobeck intimidated me and interrupted my public comment by intimidating me with a litigation for slander, violating my right to free speech. The manager is making all the decisions, and the majority of council, these incumbents sitting here, failed to question him on his overspending. We need better check and balance in our government. I will work for a consensus to seek revenues for the county, but I also will work to not raise taxes. Thank you.
Ms. McCluskey-Hauk?
The budget is by far the largest issue facing the county, but it is not the only issue facing the county. And anyone who wants to serve on county council has to recognize immediately that it's an exercise in multitasking. There are quite a few issues that come before the council, and nobody who serves on council can be focused on a single issue and exclude any others. We did have the budget hearing last night. We saw some horrifying figures about the $27 million that's earmarked for debt service next year. And that is because of the credit rating. As a member of the county council, as a member of the audit committee, and I will say that I believe I am the most vocal member of the audit committee, we have pushed to get a clear understanding of where we are by getting the 2012 audit done as an unqualified audit. I believe it will be the first unqualified audit in the history of Luzerne County. Until we know where we've been and the kind of things that have been going on financially for the past many years, we can't fully move forward, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get that done. I believe that that's one of my strengths. One of my strengths is attention to detail and understanding procedures that make sense and that are reasonable and will work regardless of who is in charge, regardless of who the manager is, regardless of who is on council. We have to have procedures that work for everyone. And so I think the other major issue that still faces us and will face us for a few years is the implementation of home rule. Because the budget is going to be there regardless of what kind of government we have. If you had 3 commissioners, they'd still be looking at budgetary issues. If you have, and as we have the 11-member council, we have to face those issues. But we need to fully implement the procedures of home rule so that we can fully recognize the efficiencies that will lead us forward into the future.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
I think the biggest challenges we face today are derived from the legacy of the bad practices and the cultural differences that came about for decades. And they translate now and they manifest themselves in the budget that was the preliminary first draft budget that we received 2 weeks ago. And that's indicative of that. But the fundamental issue that we have really is one of balance and analysis. Government is gray. It's loaded with all kinds of nuances. It's not lines drawn in the sand. And I think that members of the council have come to realize that in fact it is required that you have an open mind, that there are no magic bullets, that analysis of identification of alternatives and analysis of those alternatives is the way that in fact consensus is built. Because in the analysis, people have a chance to express themselves and to question one another. And out of that comes the information and the consensus building that makes for a decision. The truth of the matter is, Luzerne County is in a fairly precarious position right now. We heard professionals last night when asked whether our situation was anywhere close to the situations of other counties that these professionals served. We were told we are the only county without an investment-grade credit rating. I think that we have such a unique situation and that is going to be with us for so many years that it requires balance so that we listen to one another, analyze all the alternatives, and come up through consensus building, ultimately with the vote, to make sure that in fact what is decided makes sense, and it makes sense into the future. As others have said here, it will be 14 years before we are free of this burden of the millions of dollars of debt. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank our candidates for coming out this evening and sharing their issues and their expertise with us. We look forward to having you all go out to the vote on this coming week from Tuesday. I'd like to let you know that this forum has been taped by Service Electric, and it will, as of now, they're planning on broadcasting it on Saturday, the 2nd, this coming Saturday at 8 p.m., and on Sunday, the 3rd, on Channel 19. I'd also like to ask you to look for our voter's guide, which will be appearing in both local newspapers prior to the election. It'll give you more information about these candidates as well as other candidates running for office. I also invite you to become more involved in the league. We have membership forms as well as a mailing list over there, and I'd like to ask you to thank these candidates for coming out this evening.